So ever wonder what happens after the fitting process? So obviously we've shown quite a few videos with that. Now we're gonna show kind of the other side of things. So I've got my Callaway Apex iron here, 7 iron, with my Aerotech steel fiber shaft. So obviously this is the fitting process. We're gonna kind of head to the build shop, show you guys what goes on back there, and show you how we would put this together for a customer. Welcome back. This is the build shop in the Smash Factory. We just got finished completing a fitting for me. Obviously it was kind of a quasi fitting, but we're building a set of Apex irons here. So essentially we've got all our components laid out. We use, in this situation, we're going to be using steel fiber ADIs from Aerotech, one of our shaft manufacturers that we would carry at Smash Factory. I've got our build sheet with all the specs for our customer here. We're going to be building this to 37 inches, which is about a 1/4 inch short of graphite standard. CP2 mid-size wrap grip, so I've got that here for swing weighting purposes when we get into that. We've got all our important tools. So we've got our bench ruler here. We have our swing weight kit. We have our Sharpie. We've got obviously some lead tape. This is where graphite sets don't tend to have quite as large tip holes for swing weight. So we've got our swing weight kit here. Obviously with swing weight kits, there's a bunch of different ones for graphite, for steel, different hole sizes in the tips here obviously. So you cannot fit a steel swing weight tip into a graphite shaft like that. So that's where lead tape sometimes comes in if you're trying to hit a desired swing weight or if you want something a little bit heavier. It's also important because we've got a video coming out very shortly here of lead tape versus tip weights, where the mass is focused when you are adding weight or swing weighting a golf club. It can be important, and keep your eyes peeled for that video coming out in the future here, because it's definitely an interesting one that I think you'll want to watch. So we've got our Apex iron here. I just cleaned out the head, so I just did that off camera here. I mixed some glue off camera as well, so we've got some epoxy kind of ready to go. And then basically what we're going to do is, for the first portion here, we know the lie angle that we want these at. So I know this pitching wedge is going to be 65 degrees. So on my bench ruler, put it down there. Always butt that up against the end. That's a very rookie mistake. You see a lot of people do that, is something will catch and they'll cut it a little bit short. So always make sure that you double check. Cut once, measure twice, right? Pitching wedge 35 3/4 we're going to do for this gentleman. So then what we now do is trim this thing. So you'll see the saw behind me. Okay, so now that we've trimmed that down to length, what we're gonna do now is swing weight. So I'm gonna grab the grip that we're gonna be using. So you're just gonna see behind me here. I'll throw this on the swing weight scale here. We're gonna see what she comes out to. Throw our mid-size CB2. Okay, so C8. So that's not too bad. Again, pitching wedge here. So we want these about D0 is the swing weight that we were going for. So what we're going to do now is we're now going to flip back over to the table here. I'm going to leave that grip here because obviously we're going to be doing a bunch of other clubs in this set. We're going to switch back to this table here. So dry weight here with no tip weights, no glue or anything like that, no grip tape. C8. So we're trying to get this to D0. So we need about 4 grams is essentially what we're looking for here. So I go through my little container here. We've got a 4 gram graphite tip weight here. I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to grab my glue. Obviously, as you see on the table here, we've got our ferrules all prepped. Always just prep things before you do it, right? It's easier to get things messed up when you don't have everything organized. So definitely try and do that first here. So what I'm going to do is now take that ferrule, throw it on the shaft, obviously make sure it's the right size so you're not going to get any slippage or anything like that. I grab my glue, grab a little bit of glass shafting beads here just to make sure the head goes in pretty straight, centers. So we'll throw that in here. Gives it a little bit of texture as well. It's nice when you're working with a very wet epoxy that's just been mixed. It gives it a little bit of grab, so it's easier to align graphics and stuff like that and make sure it's really set in there. So gonna grab that. Again, with glue, you can use too much glue, right? So that's where the last thing you want is a ton of glue kind of shooting its way up the shaft here. That's when you get breakages essentially, right? So we're gonna make sure we use as much glue as we need to make sure that this doesn't come out. So always just a little dab on our little tool here on the inside of the head. Make sure you get that nice and round. Throw that tip weight in there. Make sure she sets well. I always try and carry this thing under my left arm. It allows me to use both hands. It's just a little tip that I kind of use. And then, okay, so then just enough glue to kind of get that wet. Wipe off the excess. Make sure you've always got paper towels everywhere because epoxy gets everywhere and it is not easy to get off. So as you see, I've got lots of paper towel here, lots of different solvents and stuff in case we do make a mess. Always rip these up into a couple sheets here. And then we're going to take that head. We are going to make sure that gets on there nice and square. A couple of bangs on the ground. Make sure she's in there all the way. And then grab your paper towel. Again, when you don't use too much glue, it shouldn't be oozing out of the ferrule. So that's when you kind of know you've used a little bit too much. When it's shooting all over the place, you need 5 paper towels to clean it off. Okay, so then obviously at this point now, this is when some people let this dry. Obviously line up your graphics, make sure that those are aligned the way that you want them. And then that's when you can bend them as well. So you can bend for lie angle and stuff like that. But typically I let them dry on our rack here and then I make the final adjustment. So essentially what I would do before, obviously I'll do off camera here, but is let this thing dry, potentially throw it on our curing rack as well, which helps things cure in about an hour instead of 24. Double check the swing weights, make sure all of everything matches, make sure grips go on and all those things. Okay, so we've built it. It is now cured. It was sitting in the curing rack for about an hour. Still a little bit warm, but it's all ready to go. So you can see, obviously it's stuck on there. So the next part of the process is basically, obviously, we're just doing the one here, but we would be doing the full set, but I'll kind of take you through the process here. So we've got our ferrule turning belt here. So obviously we've got our belt sander. We're gonna clean that ferrule up a little bit, make sure it's flush with the head. So I'll show you here real quick. You press a little bit and you turn it. That's why they call it turning it down. You'll see after just a few seconds there, that's now flush with the hosel of the golf club. So obviously you don't want, that's kind of the mark of a good builder, is a nice flush ferrule there. So that's something that most people don't look at, but I look at. So, and then you grab your non-linted cloth. You can use shop towels, those blue shop towels as well. So, but this is something we use. And then this just shines the ferrule up. It polishes a little bit, makes it look nice and pretty. So you kind of cross hatch it there a little bit. And then do a little bit more. Nice and shiny. See how that ferrule's nice and clean now, right? So, and then we'll go in afterwards and we'll kind of polish it up and make sure there's no dirt or dust anywhere. And then next part of the step is now we throw it on the grip machine. So we use an air gun. So essentially, I don't use a ton of solvent when we do this, so I'll kind of show you. I've got a little line here. Let me throw that piece of tape on here. So it's two-sided grip tape, so it's very, very sticky. And then we're gonna throw the solvent in. I just use a tiny little bit, so shake it around a little bit, get all the grip wet. Throw that on, get it nice and wet. Make sure that's lined up. The head there at the inside the vise. And easy as it comes. So essentially the air gun allows us to save grips. When we put grips on and we tape them, it just allows us to kind of, everybody's been there where they've gotten a grip stuck. This eliminates that from happening. So I go down here, make sure she's nice and square. So we'll be doing this on all the clubs in this set, obviously matching everything. And then just a quick bang on the ground to make sure she's all set. And then I'll grab my little cleaning cloth here. Just take off the excess lubricant here. And then, so it's almost done, right? So we've got our grip here, it's built, it's ready to hit, but it does need to be adjusted for loft and lie here. With forged clubs, especially like Apex in this situation, it's a very soft iron. So you do want to put some sort of protectant on it. I can't seem to find my specific tape. I use like a Gorilla tape, but this is a build-up tape. So I put a couple of layers on here. It just helps it not bend or mar and kind of dent. So we've got the machine all calibrated here. So we're bending this to 65.5 degrees. So I'll show you kind of the last piece of the process. So obviously when you're building a set, this is kind of the final piece before it gets our sticker, gets Smash Factory approved, and then things get shipped out or sent out to our customers. So right now it's 64.1. So one thing to get into a habit of is just because you put a head in or a shaft in exactly the way it should be, doesn't mean it's going to come out perfectly. This one did come out basically to its standard specs, but we're adjusting that anyway. So it's at 42.9 degrees, 43 degree pitching wedge on the apex here. So we're just going to bump this up to 65.5. So this gentleman is playing this a little bit upright. So make sure our tool's in there. Always be careful. Some companies go fast. It's nice to go nice and slow. You want to feel the thing actually bend. You can kind of feel it move in your hands. So it's all good there. 65.5, 43 degrees aloft. And then I'll show you kind of, see how it's dented a little bit there, right? So you'll see that little motor, so we want to make sure that obviously that doesn't end up wrecking the club there. Peel that little piece of tape off here. Clean it up with some acetone, clean it up with paper towel and stuff like that, and then get it ready to go. So essentially we're going to do that for all the rest of this gentleman's set as well, but this is kind of how we build the club here at Smash Factory. So thank you. I'm just going to grab a piece of tape here real quick, if I can find it. Where is it, Maddie? Where's my stuff? It's like, it's Gorilla Tape. It's this tape.